So let's talk about a really fascinating way to learn a language. Forget the textbooks for a second. We're going to jump right into the middle of a high-stakes, real-world drama. Think about the last time you were stressed out or felt under pressure. What if that feeling was actually the secret to learning? Let's dive in.
And I love how our source material kicks this off, saying, we're bringing you our very own action movie today. And that is exactly the method we're going to dissect. We're going to break down how a short, dramatic scene can be an unbelievably powerful tool for learning practical, everyday English. Okay, so our goal here isn't just to throw a list of phrases at you. Nope. We're going to get into the methodology itself. We're going to explore why putting language inside a moment of conflict, a moment of real emotion, can make it stick in your brain in a way that just memorizing a list of words never, ever could. So our little action movie, it starts with a scene you've probably seen, or maybe you've even been in one yourself. You've got two cars, a sudden jolt, and that awful crunch of metal. It's a minor car accident, and now two complete strangers have to get out of their cars and figure out what on earth to do next. You can already feel the tension, right? This whole situation, this entire lesson, it really all revolves around one specific phrase. It's the term that immediately tells you exactly what the stakes are, and that term is a fender bender. Now, what's so cool about this phrase is just how specific it is. See, it's not a huge crash or some terrible wreck. A fender bender is specifically a minor collision. Just by using this term, you're already bringing the severity down a notch, while still admitting there's a problem. It's really the perfect stage for our little drama. So what happens first? Well, you pull over. This is our first really key piece of vocabulary. It's a phrasal verb, and it just means move your car over to the side of the road and stop. It's the first, most essential thing you have to do. You pull over, you kill the engine, and then you get ready to figure out what just happened. And here we go. This is where the action movie really kicks into high gear. As soon as both drivers are out of their cars, the blame game starts. And this is where communication becomes absolutely critical. A few key phrases right here can totally define how this whole conversation goes down. The first driver, they're angry. They might yell, "You cut me off." Now, this is such a great natural phrase. It doesn't mean they literally took scissors to their car, right? It means the other driver swerved into their lane way too aggressively, without leaving enough space, forcing them to slam on the brakes. It's a straight-up accusation. But, of course, the second driver sees things differently. They'll probably defend themselves with something like, "You came out of nowhere." This is another fantastic, really emotional phrase. It paints this picture of total surprise that the other car just appeared so fast it was impossible to avoid. It's their way of fighting back. And if you look at it side by side, you can really see the two different realities here. For driver number one, the issue was a violation of their space. They got cut off. But for driver number two, the problem was all about speed and surprise. The other car came out of nowhere. You see, they're both using this vivid, emotional language to describe the exact same moment from two completely different points of view. All of this arguing, all of this back and forth, it all boils down to one really important word: fault. Figuring out who is at fault is the whole point of this debate. And it's not just about who's right or wrong. It's a legal and a financial term that decides who is on the hook for all the damage. So, after that initial burst of anger and accusations, the drama has to pivot towards some kind of resolution. The emotion has to give way to procedure, and this part requires a whole new set of words that are all about practical next steps. Here's the basic playbook. You try to stay calm, you argue about who's at fault, and then you get to the most important step of all. You exchange details. This is another one of those key phrases. It sounds a little formal, but it's super common, and it just means you're going to trade essential information with the other driver. And what details are we talking about? Well, you're going to need names, phone numbers, and here's the big one, your insurance information. Honestly, that one word, insurance, might be the most vital piece of vocabulary in this entire scenario. It's the key that unlocks how you're going to get the damages paid for and put this whole thing behind you. Okay, so we've just walked through our entire action movie. We've learned the vocabulary, we followed the plot, but now we get to the really big question. Why does this actually work? Why on earth would you try to learn a language in the middle of a stressful car accident? Really think about it for a second. Wouldn't it be so much easier to just learn words from a nice, quiet list in a book? Why inject all the stress of a fender bender? Or, like in a similar lesson from our source, the total chaos of a hospital emergency room? What's the point?
Well, here's the answer. And it's actually pretty simple, but it is so powerful. Our brains are basically hardwired to remember things that are tied to strong emotions. That frustration of being cut off, the panic of a collision, the relief when you finally exchange details, all those feelings act like a kind of mental glue, locking that language deep inside your memory. You see, the reason this whole method is so effective is because it's all about context. It doesn't just teach you words in a vacuum, it teaches you how to use them when you're under pressure. You're not just learning the definition of insurance, you're learning its vital importance in a moment when you actually need it. This whole approach builds real fluency for the real world because it's pretty much how we learn naturally, by doing things, by feeling things, and by experiencing them. And really, that's the big takeaway from all of this. Learning a language effectively isn't some passive activity where you just memorize stuff. It's an active process. You have to live through the scenarios, even if they're just simulated. Because when you experience a word inside a story, you own it in a way that you never could by just reading its definition off a page. Which kind of leaves us with one final thought to chew on. If you can learn a language this way, by embedding it in drama and action and emotion, what else could you learn? Public speaking? How to negotiate a raise? Maybe the best classroom isn't a classroom at all. What complex skill in your own life do you think could be taught like an action movie?